Imagine one extended family was violently killed in Britain, which has a population of around 69 million people. The grandfathers killed, the grandmothers killed, the fathers, the mothers, the uncles, the aunts, the teenagers, the toddlers, the newborn babies, all killed. One extended family gone, murdered in Britain. If that one extended family was killed in Britain, it would be regarded as one of the great crimes of the post-war era. This horror would be splashed on every front page. It would lead every news bulletin. We would have in-depth portraits of every victim. We would see the smiling faces of the photos of children and babies killed in this horror. Politicians would do grief-stricken speeches. Social media would abound with ordinary citizens sharing their disgust, their horror. It would go down in the history books, a crime remembered with shock for generations. Gaza had a pre-genocide population of around 2.2 million, much smaller than Britain's 69 million people. According to a new study from Al Jazeera, Israel has wiped out more than 2,700 Palestinian extended families in Gaza since the genocide began in October 2023. The youngest victim killed in Gaza by the Israeli state, a 1-year-old baby. The oldest victim, a 101-year-old man. Each family, their own memories, their own histories, their own traditions, their own secrets, their ups, their downs, their celebrations, their tragedies. All of these families gone, erased from the earth as though they didn't exist in the first place. All those precious shared moments that they had, a child's first word, family celebrations, days out at the beach, all of these families wiped from Gaza's civil registry, all of their memories wiped along with them, as if they never happened. If anywhere else on Earth, especially in a territory with just over 2 million people, 2,700 plus extended families had been violently exterminated in the space of 2 years, there would be no debate or discussion or controversy about whether that this constituted genocide. It would be deemed outrageous to even deny it. It is our responsibility, not least in countries which helped arm and facilitate this genocide, to remember all the details of what our countries helped do to the people of Gaza. Let's listen to this from Al Jazeera.
This isn't only a story of casualties. This is a story of lineage, heritage, and identity disappearing in an instant. For that to happen, 3 generations of the same household must be wiped out. More than 20 members of a Najjar family were killed that night. Sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, so many branches gone.
More than 2,700 families were completely erased, with a total of more than 8,000 deaths. About 40,000 families were targeted, which means more than 4 deaths in each family.
When a Palestinian family disappears, they take with them their history, their traditions, their memories, and their future. Names that would have lived on for generations have vanished from Gaza collective identity. Names that define a genocide. Hani Mahmoud, Al Jazeera, from Gaza City, Palestine.
As well as every single member of 2,700 plus extended families being wiped out, there are another 6,000 families with just one survivor remaining. Imagine being that sole survivor, the only one remaining from your bloodline. Maybe some of them are young, able to have families, keep their bloodlines alive. Others will be older, knowing that when they are gone, no one will remain from their bloodline. The last of their clan walking the earth, knowing that when they die, maybe when they are bombed or shot or starved or die of a treatable illness, their bloodline too will be erased from Gaza's civil registry. Israel's genocide has not stopped. According to the figures, at least 477 Palestinians have been killed since the so-called ceasefire began in October, with another 1,300 injured. Imagine just one Israeli civilian had been killed by Hamas in that time. That one civilian would lead our news bulletins and be splashed on front pages, and there would be fiery condemnations from politicians and pundits. It would be offered up as evidence of the unique evil and barbarism of Hamas. The ceasefire would be declared over, and Israel would use it as an excuse for even more violence, though as we can see, they hardly need a pretext. Last Wednesday, for example, the Israeli army killed at least 11 Palestinians in Gaza on one day, including two 13-year-old boys, 3 journalists, and a woman. Now, of course, during the full-scale genocide, hundreds were being killed each day. But these are still human beings. And if 11 Israelis were wiped out in one day, in different incidents, by Hamas, just imagine. One of those 13-year-olds was killed alongside his father and another 22-year-old man. The other 13-year-old, named Motasem al-Sharifi, was killed as he collected firewood. Here's his father weeping over his body.
والله جعان والله معتصم استشهد جعان والله يا حبيبي جعان استشهد ايش نوجه رسالة العالم كفى يا عالم كفى يا عالم كفى يا عالم حسوا فينا كفى يا عالم معتصم بالله طفل 13 سنة بقاومش ما بيحملش سلاح.
Again, just imagine one 13-year-old Israeli civilian, one 13-year-old Israeli boy had been killed by a Palestinian militant as they went about their daily business. Imagine the outrage, the uproar, the coverage, the denunciations. But I would imagine for most of you, this is the first time you've heard of this Palestinian boy. It will almost certainly be the last. According to UNICEF, Israel has attacked Gaza on 92 of the 100 days of the ceasefire that took effect on October the 10th, the so-called ceasefire. A ceasefire, which means, as the phrase goes, from Israel's perspective, you cease, we fire. Of the hundreds killed, over 100 are Palestinian children. That is 3 times the total number of Israeli children who were killed on the 7th of October. And yet there was more outrage over the fictional, non-existent, made-up beheading of Israeli babies than there has been over a single Palestinian child killed by Israel. The tens of thousands of Palestinian children, their lives treated as though they didn't matter. But they do matter. The children who survive are living through unimaginable trauma. Listen to this from UNICEF spokesperson Tess Ingram.
We estimate that every single child in the Gaza Strip, 1 million, needs some level of mental health and psychosocial support. And we are providing that now, and we want to scale it up. And we want to do that in the classroom so that as we're getting children back to learning, we're also providing mental health support for them in that environment. But I've seen it firsthand, the scale of the needs and just the intensity of some of the symptoms that children are exhibiting, children who don't speak anymore or don't eat because of what they've endured. It's going to take, concerted, I think, effort and many years for some of these children to overcome what they've been through.
As she says, every single surviving child in Gaza needs some level of mental health support. The trauma they have experienced is beyond the realm of our imagination. They have suffered bereavements. They have watched people be killed, including their loved ones and friends. They have been repeatedly displaced, forced to flee under threat of violence. They may have been injured. They have experienced day after day and night after night of terrifying explosions and bombs going off and bullets being fired, constantly wondering if this will be their last moment alive. They've been sick and deprived of treatment. They have been starved. They've been crammed into tents. They have been denied fresh water, the ability to clean themselves or use toilets. They have been denied schooling. They've been subjected to extreme cold and extreme heat and flooding. We could go on. These children have and are suffering apocalyptic conditions beyond our imagination. Yesterday, the IDF announced they'd recovered the remains of their last hostage in Gaza, a police officer declaring there are officially no more hostages in captivity in Gaza, leaving aside that Gaza's 2 million or so, we don't know how many are left, survivors are all hostages of the Israeli state. There are over 9,000 Palestinian detainees held by Israel. Hostages, many of them neither charged or tried, and if they were, by kangaroo courts, arbitrarily kidnapped and then held in hideous conditions, tortured, starved, denied medical assistance, raped, and indeed killed. And there are hundreds of Palestinian bodies in Israeli captivity. Yes, their bodies being held hostage. This one Israeli police officer and his remains, more anger and horror than countless surviving Palestinians or the tens of thousands of Palestinians murdered, all, of course, the bodies of Palestinians who were held in captivity. As the brilliant Palestinian analyst Mohammed Shahada notes about the Israeli remains that were located, Israel knew for a month the approximate location of Ran Gavili's body in Gaza, but Netanyahu prevented the IDF from launching the operation to retrieve him. Ran's body was Israel's last pretext to keep Gaza's Rafah crossing closed and obstruct phase 2 of the Trump deal. You see, Israel simply looks for any excuse or pretext to make the Palestinian people suffer. Now, the Rafah crossing from Gaza to Egypt may well be opened by Israel. But what does this mean? Listen to Palestinian analyst Noor Odeh.
How worried are people that if Palestinians leave Gaza through the Rafah crossing one way, that Israel then won't allow them to come back in? And that goes against the ceasefire agreement, doesn't it?
It does. It's against the agreement. But again, this is what the Israeli government has explicitly said it wants to do. It does not want to allow the large number of Palestinians stuck outside of Gaza to enter. There are no guarantees that those who leave can enter. The thousands of babies who were born since October 2023 have not been registered, so Israel doesn't recognize them. They do not have national ID numbers, and that is another problem that will face those who want to return, who've had children in the past 2 years. So a lot of problems, a lot of hurdles are ahead, and this is a very hot potato, if you will, domestically in Israel. We've already heard from a minister like Itamar Ben-Gvir attacking the U.S. envoy, Steve Witkoff, and calling him naive for wanting to open the crossing, even though the cabinet has already rubber-stamped it. But these kinds of ministers, the very right-wing ministers in this right-wing government, will put as many hurdles as possible in the operation of the crossing. How many people are allowed to leave, how many are allowed to come back, who can leave and who can enter. And remember, there are thousands of people who need to be evacuated from Gaza for medical treatment. Those will be the most urgent asks, if you will, of the administration, the new technocratic administration, and of the health sector in Gaza.
It's very clear that Israel and indeed Donald Trump have not given up their dream of ethnically cleansing Gaza. That remains their plan, their dream, their ambition. And yesterday, speaking in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, Netanyahu said the next stage is not reconstruction. It is the disarmament of Hamas and the demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. We have an interest in advancing this stage, not delaying it. It is clear that Israel is looking for any excuse to continue leaving Gaza in ruins because they made it unlivable for a reason. They do not want any living Palestinians to remain in Gaza. Meanwhile, the brilliant Dropsite News have a report on the so-called Board of Peace, an Orwellian term, which is led by Trump, intended not just to rule Gaza, but to have power beyond that and to challenge the United Nations. Trump is emperor with de facto supreme power. A Palestinian body has been created with no independent sovereignty and operating under a high representative, a kind of colonial-era viceroy. New appointees included Chief of Staff Susan Wiles and Martin Edelman, a real estate attorney and special advisor to the government of the United Arab Emirates. There are other real estate developers on this board for a reason, because the Trump plan remains. The plan he announced last year turned Gaza into a holiday resort for the mega-rich, with Palestinians gone, where oligarchs can sunbathe on the ground where tens of thousands of murdered Palestinians are buried. It is our responsibility to keep talking about Gaza. This is a crime which is unspeakable in its dimensions. One of the great crimes of our age, facilitated by our politicians and by our media organizations. Nothing can stay the same after this. There's no returning to normal after this. There is no compromise to be had with people who can facilitate this level of barbarism. They have to be defeated. They have to go to prison. Their careers have to be destroyed. We have a responsibility to fight for justice and accountability. Because if we don't, we do not just deprive the Palestinian people of justice, but we normalize endless barbarism. Anything is possible after this. Any level of evil is possible after this, unless we do something about it and we hold the architects of this genocide to account. That's up to us. We've got a responsibility. Because if we don't, we degrade ourselves. We lose our own humanity. Because we know we will have allowed our rulers and our media to impose unimaginable evil, which we failed to do anything about. It is up to us. Please like and subscribe. We won't stop talking about Gaza and the genocide, of course. Help us take on the pro-genocide media who facilitate this genocide at patreon.com/ownjazz84. You make all of this possible. I keep saying, finishing my book, The Fall of the West, out in October, which will all be done and dusted in a few weeks. And then we'll just focus on the channel. We've got lots coming up, including, for example, the Gorton and Denton by-election, which will be held in a month because they were trying to rush it through as quickly as they can. We're going to go up there, talk to people on the ground, see what's going on. Fingers crossed, of course, that the Green Party triumph. I'll go up there and I will, by the way, I will speak to people of different political perspectives and views as a journalist, but I'm always open about what I think, unlike other journalists who pretend they're impartial and then just pursue their political agenda in a deceptive way. I'm always open and honest about where I stand, but I'm also rigorously fair in terms of who I speak to. Anyway, we'll you make all those documentaries possible. We'll have far more documentaries, but now I'll have more time soon. Yeah, share, like, subscribe, leave your comments. Always read those. Speak to you in a bit.